Many other nations besides the U.S. are facing illegal immigration as a top political and social issue.
Are great numbers of people coming to Europe expecting a free ride?
Myślę, że w bardzo wielu przypadkach tak jest.
I think that in very many cases we have such a situation.
From a candid discussion with the president of Poland to Great Britain.
There's a lot of discontent. It's a boiling kettle.
In the United States, another presidential election, and immigration is again both a top and dividing issue.
This is America's border czar, and she's failed us.
Kamala Harris supports increasing the number of Border Patrol agents.
We're in Arizona, both a border and battleground state, where the politics are fooling no one.
You know, promises are cheap by both parties.
Just in time for school season, the CDC is recommending a new round of COVID vaccines for children.
The adverse effects were mild to moderate.
We examine the messaging that hasn't changed in the face of cases of vaccine damage that heightens the call to question the science.
Welcome to Season 10 of Full Measure. I'm Sharyl Attkisson. We begin today with illegal immigration and the border crisis, top issues in yet another presidential election. And you may not have heard much about it, but there's a parallel calamity driving politics in Europe, where they're also struggling with a tide of illegal immigration. As they try to dial it back, it's already changed the face of Europe.
We're at Britain's largest mosque, where Muslims come to pray, and Imam Sabah Amiri takes a public role tamping down tension amid Europe's immigration crisis.
I do think the fear of immigration is not immigration itself. I think it's the fear of Islam and the misunderstanding of Islam.
What would you say is an example of a major misunderstanding people have, and what is your counterpoint?
Sure, I think people misunderstand Islam when it comes to terrorism. When people say that you have a Muslim terrorist, it's actually an oxymoron. A Muslim is someone who strives for peace. As a Muslim, I can't advocate to kill innocent people. My faith does not allow that. No sane person would encourage the killing of innocent people.
Across Europe, illegal immigration is straining emotions at the seams, pitting religions and cultures against one another. The friction was evident during our recent visit to England. 3 children were murdered in a mass stabbing of 13 people. When the attacker was rumored to be a foreigner, anti-immigrant rioting broke out, as well as Muslim gangs attacking white people. Police say the stabbing suspect was actually born in Britain, the son of Rwandan immigrants. Today, vocal majorities in Europe overwhelmingly support greater restrictions on foreigners coming in.
We need to be able to control it and avoid illegal immigration in Europe because it brings with it a lot of dangers and risks for the population.
Public sentiment has taken a sharp turn since the welcome mat laid out in 2015. That year alone, Europe welcomed more than 1.8 million illegal or irregular immigrants, mostly from the Muslim nations of Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan. In many respects, Europe's backlash against its surge in illegal immigration was centered here in Greece, where we first began reporting on the story in 2019.
This is Hellenic Coast Guard. This is Hellenic Coast Guard. For your safety, stop your engine.
The Greek Coast Guard showed us how they'd been forced to abandon Border Patrol duties to become a nightly welcome wagon for masses of illegal immigrants trafficked through Turkey on overloaded rafts. Europe tried to tap the brakes after a series of terrorist attacks by Islamic extremist immigrants in 2016. But foreigners continued to come. In 2022 alone, nearly 7 million people immigrated to Europe. The influx has brought economic costs, immigrant crime, and religious conflicts, including attacks on Christian churches by Islamic extremists and anti-Muslim burnings of the Quran. In 2019, we covered the turmoil in Malmö, Sweden, where violence against Jews escalated as the Muslim population swelled. We also saw the conflict in neighboring Denmark give rise to anti-Muslim politician Rasmus Paludan.
In Denmark, our party is fighting for the survival of ethnic Danes here in Denmark. The goal is for all the Muslims to leave Denmark.
In Europe, there's been a steep decline in the number of Christians. Islam is the #2 religion in the United Kingdom. Muslims number about 4 million, with the greatest concentration here in London, where they make up 15% of the population.
For most, Western Europe is the destination of choice. But Eastern Europe has begun to feel the pressure in the last few years. In 2021, analysts say, Russia began trafficking multitudes of people from the Mideast and North Africa through Russian ally Belarus into Poland, enticing them with the promise of free benefits in Europe. In a rare sit-down interview, Poland's President Andrzej Duda told us the Russians intend for it to create instability and chaos.
If someone comes over to Poland in the false perception that one will stay here and get everything for free and will have a better life without working, well, we do not agree to such arrivals. No, if you want to live among us, work. You want to live among us, get yourself moving and do some work, earn some money. This is as simple as that.
Are great numbers of people coming to Europe expecting a free ride?
Myślę, że w bardzo wielu przypadkach tak jest.
Yes, I think that in very many cases we have such a situation. That's why there is such a reaction in the west of Europe.
Poland responded to the onslaught from Belarus by building a 15-foot-tall border fence.
Donald Trump obviously wanted to build fencing and wall. You built a fence or some sort of barrier. There are parallels here that I just think are interesting that we don't hear much about in the United States.
Po to, żeby pokazać, że
The reason I'm describing the situation in Europe is because I want to show to you that you are not the only ones who are affected. Our continent, our societies are also confronting such a problem.
In May, a mob of illegal immigrants threw knives and spears through Poland's border fence, murdering a 21-year-old Polish soldier and injuring several others. Poland's parliament quickly passed a law allowing border guards to use live ammunition. As in the U.S., illegal immigration is driving politics, with all sides promising to act.
We're going to do the largest deportation in the history of our country. We have no choice.
We know our immigration system is broken, and we know what it takes to fix it.
Neil Coyle is a member of parliament with Britain's left-leaning Labour Party, which recently won a political majority and will have to try to find ways to stop illegal immigration that eluded the Conservative Party.
Where the public have a problem is illegal and unlawful entry into the UK. That's where the public have a bigger problem. There are different ways of fixing that, including, for example, coming back to Afghanistan, the biggest group of people crossing the English Channel in the boats unlawfully. They shouldn't be doing it. Nobody thinks they should be doing it. The way to fix that, in part, is to respect the fact that some of them fought for us and allow them to either join family here or come through our asylum process and arrive by flights and safely rather than turning up in a boat.
As both the U.S. and Europe continue to struggle with their illegal immigration crises, analyst David Cowling says it's a mistake to write off all opponents to illegal immigration as anti-Muslim or Islamophobic.
Yes, there's a lot of discontent. Billions of pounds are being spent in Britain to house asylum seekers and illegal immigrants. So that's causing resentment. I'm not quite sure how it ends, really. So there doesn't seem to be a clear path as to how it ends.
Has the face of Europe changed a lot in the past 20 years?
I think most Brits will champion the fact that we are a multicultural society. And I think it's really important that we have a reminder that just because somebody looks different or they have a different perception on life doesn't make them the other. Because when we categorize someone as the other, it can then lead to them being discriminated and targeted for no reason.
The law enforcement agency of the European Union says it's targeting the complex, ruthless smuggling networks that move illegal immigrants into Europe, generating billions for the criminal groups involved.